CHEM-100 is a DC short-term GE course. Okay, so it's these other courses we've been looking at are more kind of major type courses. This is a GE course designed for students who may or may not have had any science background whatsoever. Typically speaking, they have had some science in high school, which often was years ago, if not decades ago. So the students in this course often come in with a fair bit of trepidation. They're going, science? You know, like I haven't had that, you know, and so they come with a lot of fear. And so that's part of that's the context of these students, is that they are very fearful and they say, I can't do this kind of stuff. So this has been a very much of a learning experience for me. Worked a lot working with Henrietta, also with Jenny Solorio as my instructional designer. So what you're seeing here is not really just my stuff. It's again, it's a collaboration of several people kind of putting all of this together. But I had I started off from, my foundation was a very good textbook that was actually entitled Visualizing Everyday Chemistry. Okay, that's the actual title. And it is very image rich. It is highly, highly visual, but in the past a lot of science books are often very overly textual, and that doesn't really convey, if you're talking about how our molecules interacting, even how you know, any sort of system, you want a picture of it. So this is a book that really uses lots of pictures, and we're trying to kind of build off that and try to keep things from being too textual and make it more visual, because that's, you know, how I teach in the classroom. I draw pictures on the board. You know, I draw lots of pictures and show how things interact. I've been amazed how much my students, I'm gonna look at their notes and go, man, I wish I could write their notes blow away my lecture presentation. So like but lots of pictures and images, and so that's what I was trying to kind of leverage here. So one of the things we kind of came across was I have found a very excellent series of 9 to 11 minute videos that in the sciences. I have a playlist entitled Crash Course Chemistry. There's also Crash Course Physics and Crash Course Biology, and I kind of incorporate some of those as well. We also found other videos, but the bulk of these are coming from this Crash Course Chemistry. So if we could look at this week, ready? Okay, look at week 3 again. We could kind of show how that is presented here. So I just didn't want to have just have a video. Okay, the point being, I wanted a video, and it's like this is kind of to introduce the topic. So we had, like, we should be covering a couple of chapters in this textbook each week, and the topics might be, they were all somewhat kind of siloed necessarily, because this is a education course. Things build on each other to a small degree, and so there is a kind of a sequence, but some of these are kind of somewhat self-contained topics, and so I did kind of at times rearrange them a little bit to kind of provide more class interest. Okay, but I then chose 2 or 3 videos for each chapter that really highlighted what I thought were the main points of that particular chapter. So I really wanted them to kind of read these first, or watch these first. Let this be your introduction to the week. And so to incentivize that, worked with me, and we created some quizzes, okay, for each one. The quizzes ended up being actually very not easy to create. There was a lot of work between Jason and Jenny, and I didn't actually make this part. That was their content.
You got the content though.
I wrote the questions. I found the videos. They made it all work. Okay, so I'm very very grateful to them. But the students actually scored 90, 95, 100% on all the quizzes. Okay, and that wasn't the point. It wasn't to try to ding them for points. It was to give them an incentive to watch this early, to watch it with a critical eye, so they're actually looking for the main points. And so my questions typically were trying to highlight what I thought were the main points that also then reinforced the stuff in the textbook. Because there was always, so you could have actually answered all the questions by reading the text. You know, the information was also in the text, even though that was presented here. And so I really wanted them to kind of watch this with a critical eye. Okay, and what I found, based on some of the learning forms that I also included in this course, the students at first were kind of like, what is this? This is kind of weird. What's that? And I'm watching a video taking a quiz. They were the first weeks they were just kind of what? Huh? You know, and they, how long do I have for this? They were looking to use the time quiz. There's no time on it, especially it's unlimited time. Okay, they get 2 shots at an answer. Sometimes, but I have a very specific. They're filling the blanks. There is one exact right answer. So sometimes they might say the answer might have been isomers, and they said isomer. And so I had to kind of give them a little bit of leeway there. But what I found was that after about the week 2 and 3, the students were going, "Oh, this was great. I love this video." They were really commenting on the videos themselves and how it was a springboard. And they also noted that rather than watch the video, they would say, "I go through it. I read the questions first. I pull it up. I read the questions because now I know what the instructor thinks is important. Okay, I'm not just watching a video that I don't have a context for. I hadn't even thought of it in that fashion, but they saw that as kind of providing some context. It only takes like maybe 25 seconds to read the questions, but now they're kind of primed for it. But they're all, you see, this was about, how long is this one? 13? That's one of the longest ones. Most of them were typically no longer than 11 minutes. So again, you had several of these, but they were, again, no more than, maybe you had 3, but they were like 3 10-minute videos. It's not a 30-minute video you have to watch, which I hate that when I come out of something like 30 minutes, and I go, so I go 10 minutes. Oh, okay. That becomes, you can do it in smaller bites. Because again, this is like, it's all one quiz here. It's like one page. Because then the next page is another video with another quiz. But it's actually all one quiz. It's just the next page of the same quiz. So now we have, again, jumping off of the water. Now we're talking about things that are polar or non-polar. It segues right into, well, water is polar. We're now like, well, what happens when we have things that are not polar? And it's a very good, and he's talking about laundry before, which actually is a perfect segue, even though I think the order of them are quite different. I often will kind of take their topics and kind of, again, rearrange them whatever order worked for my timeline, not necessarily their timeline. But again, they presented the things in one order, and I was presenting them in a different order, which worked quite nicely. So I found this to be a very excellent way of getting them into the topic. Okay, you saw some humor there. He brings out his dirty socks. There's other ones where he has presenter has obviously understands his chemistry, but understands the humor in the chemistry. One of the things that all chemistry students hate is learning how to name compounds because it seems so arcane. When he introduces naming of compounds, he has a cartoon in the background, and it's a whole bunch of his version of supervillains. And he presents the naming group called IUPAC, International Union of Pure and Applied Chemists, as a group of supervillains who are there to make your life difficult. And so he uses that sort of humor to lighten all of these topics. And so it gave them a very visual but much more interactive way that then when they come back and read the text, they've seen these same things about polar, non-polar, water, and soap, and then they come look at it and they have a much more of a context for reading the much, not dry text, we still have a lot of visuals, this is the way to kind of kickstart them, get them in saying, hey, you do understand some of this stuff, because these videos are all very much in visualizing everyday chemistry. He uses very much everyday objects, everyday foods, dirty socks, putting my hands in butter to try to wash off the butter with water, which obviously didn't work because we had, greasy hands. So that was the first thing I'm going to talk about is this kind of notion of a video as an introduction, not as an quiz, not as an assessment at all, really. It's simply as an incentive, a point incentive, and then you can make it say it should be due. We had these do the first chapter was like on Wednesday, and the second chapter quizzes were due on Friday. Then they had a lot of other work to be doing then over the weekend. This got them into the material early. Okay, because we had a lot of other stuff that they had to work on later on. Because also in this week, actually every week, but this is a good one for this week. Okay, one of the things I decided to include was had these called take a position forums. So why don't you go down to number 3.7 there, that'd be good. Because I wanted them, again, to relate all this stuff to everyday chemistry, okay? And again, what I'm kind of getting them to interact here, okay? And so this is one to say, take a position, which is better, bottled water or tap water. They're talking about in this chapter, water purification, the Clean Water Act. The previous week they were talking a lot about foods. So they'll talk about the Food and Drug Act. So here we're talking about the Clean Water Act. And so it may have a little bit of an introduction here because I don't know if you know that tap water is regulated by the EPA, Clean Water Act, but bottled water is a food product you buy at the store. It's regulated by the FDA, different set of regulations, okay? And so had them present a little bit of information and have them look up more that they could find, and then take a position, say, which is better, bottled water, tap water. So everyone had to create a small post, argue in favor of one or the other, okay? And present their conclusions, and then their compatriots would comment saying, do I buy your argument or not? Do I not buy your argument? Okay. But again, it was a way that I found of, again, taking this more, not abstract, but taking the material, looking at in the text and the videos, and again, embedding it in their actual life, okay? And so these, again, were things that prompted lots of interaction and a lot of discussion. So I found this to be a very kind of useful tool just for me. I like to see what they were thinking. I like to get a little more provocative after this. And it's not like there's a right answer. I'm trying to always pick a question there where there wasn't a right answer. You can argue for A, you can argue for B. In this case, and most students ended up arguing for tap water. Then the main argument was bottles. You have lots of bottles. That's expensive, that's wasteful. But I like that other students said, well, bottled water is consistent. Said, I grew up in Lemoore and my grandma was in Hanford and I hate Hanford water. You know, I can't stand Hanford water. You know, and so like, maybe it's clean, it's pure, it meets requirements, but I don't want to drink that water. So, you know, they might also say that when they have a water purification system instead of having bottled water. But not all tap water was the same. But they were making some nuanced arguments. Again, trying to bring in, and this is not why I initially did this, but I was seeing it as a way of bringing in the critical thinking again as well.
We're going to need to move on to the next.
Okay.
So we have time for one question for Jonathan if there is a burning question. Yes, one.
Just a comment. I admit I'm not a sciencey person, but this looks not only like a way that I can really learn those important science concepts, but it also looks fun.
And that's what I get. And then not all the videos were from this guy. Because not all the topics I wanted to cover were hit by that. But I found other ones that had similar sort of a vein to it. There are a lot of maybe crazy science guys doing videos who get into that part of it. And I also like they were all closed captioned from the source. So they were, in fact, I would always turn on the closed captions because I wanted to see exactly what he was saying because I was trying to match my quiz questions literally to the text of the quiz. And I wanted to see that. So.
Is that the instructor view of the checklist? Or is that...
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up and try to.
This is a new feature that we've added. It's actually an assignment available to anyone. And this is an instructor view of who has, the settings can be made so that you can see who submits or who's active. So in the first week, we talked immediately about student X. Obviously, the instructor has a view of the entire spreadsheet, and students have a view only of their own activity. So immediately, this gives me as an instructor, we talked about this, say, is student X still in the course? Reach out to the student, find out why the student's not participating. So it's not just about what they submit. This is a quick way to see how they're participating.